I'm Olivia Mitchell, 22 years old, and I once believed family meant unconditional support. For 18 years, I was the perfect daughter. Straight A's, extracurriculars, the future doctor they bragged about at family gatherings. Then came that summer evening when my parents sat me down. We just can't afford your college tuition. 2 weeks later, I watched them hand my brother keys to a brand new truck with a giant red bow. For his future, they said, smiling. That moment taught me that sometimes your own path forward requires walking away silently. If you've ever had to stand up for yourself when nobody else would, drop a comment below and tell me your story. While you watch how I turned my family's betrayal into my greatest triumph. Growing up in Millfield, Ohio, population 8,000, I never questioned my place in the world or in my family. Our two-story colonial with the fading blue shutters sat on Maple Street, just 3 blocks from the high school where I spent 4 years. At the top of my class, my childhood wasn't extravagant, but it was comfortable. The definition of middle-class American suburban life. My father, Richard Mitchell, worked as a production supervisor at the manufacturing plant that employed half the town. He'd been there 20 years, climbing from the factory floor to management through what he called grit and showing up. Mom, Linda, worked part-time as an administrative assistant at the local insurance office. It's a job she'd taken when I started middle school to help with college funds. She always specified. From kindergarten, I was labeled the smart one. My teacher sent notes home about exceptional aptitude, and my parents beamed at every parent-teacher conference. By 3rd grade, I was reading at an 8th grade level. By 6th grade, I was taking advanced math. It wasn't just natural talent. I worked hard, staying up late to perfect assignments while other kids played video games or hung out at the mall. "That's my girl," Dad would say, ruffling my hair when another perfect report card came home. "She's going to be the first doctor in the family." The dream of medical school became a shared family goal, something we talked about around the dinner table or saving for your education. Mom would remind me when I asked for expensive things other teens had. Your future comes first. My brother Jason came along when I was 3, where I was studious and methodical. Jason was outgoing and spontaneous. He struggled with academics, but could take apart and reassemble anything mechanical. Dad loved that about him, often pulling him into the garage to work on the family car together while I studied inside. Despite our differences, we were close growing up. He'd protect me from bullies at school, and I'd help him with homework at night. "You two balance each other out," Mom would say. Livia with her books, Jason with his hands. There was never any explicit favoritism growing up, at least none I could detect. We both received love and attention. Christmas presents were always equal, and birthdays equally celebrated. If anything, my accomplishments seemed to receive more public praise. Throughout high school, I maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA while participating in debate, team, student government, and volunteering at the local hospital. Every choice was calculated toward my future medical career. I sacrificed parties, dating, and social events to maintain my academic standing. My senior year, I was named valedictorian and received the Principal's Award for Excellence. The college application process began early in my senior year. My guidance counselor, Mrs. Westfield, pushed me to aim high. "With your transcript and extracurriculars, the top schools will want you," she assured me. I applied to 12 universities, including my dream school, Northwestern University, with its renowned pre-med program. Around the kitchen table, we discussed finances openly. "We've been saving since you were born," Mom explained one evening, spreadsheets laid out between us. "With your scholarships, our savings, and a small loan, Northwestern is within reach." Their support felt absolute and unwavering. When the acceptance letters began arriving, we celebrated each one. The Northwestern letter came on a rainy April afternoon. I remember standing on our front porch, hands shaking as I opened the thick envelope, the universal sign of acceptance. I screamed so loud our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, came outside to check if everything was okay. That night, my parents took us out to Salvatore's, the nicest restaurant in town, a place reserved for major celebrations. Dad ordered champagne for him and Mom, allowing Jason and me to have a sip and toast. To our future doctor, he said, pride evident in his voice, "We always knew you could do it." After dinner, we discussed the partial merit scholarship I'd received. "It's a good start," Mom said. "We'll make up the difference. This is what we've been planning for." Dad nodded in agreement, adding, "Nothing's more important than setting our kids up for success." The following weeks were filled with excitement and planning. I selected first semester courses, researched dormitory options, and joined online groups for incoming freshmen. Mom took me shopping for dorm essentials, and Dad talked about driving me to Chicago in August. Everything seemed perfectly aligned. Each night before bed, I'd look at the Northwestern acceptance letter pinned to my bulletin board and feel a surge of excitement. Years of hard work had paid off with my family's emotional and financial support. I was about to embark on the journey toward becoming Dr. Olivia Mitchell. What could possibly go wrong when I had done everything right? The shift happened so gradually I almost missed it. In late May, about 3 weeks after my high school graduation, I noticed my parents having hushed conversations that would abruptly end when I entered the room. Dad started bringing work stress home, something he rarely did, commenting about financial pressures and uncertain times at the plant. Mom began scrutinizing grocery receipts and cutting back on household expenses, though nothing major. Still riding the high of graduation and focused on my upcoming university adventure, I dismissed these subtle changes until the family meeting. It was a Sunday evening in early June. The summer heat had settled in, making our dining room uncomfortably warm despite the ceiling fan spinning overhead. Jason was at a friend's house, conspicuously absent. "Olivia, we need to talk about college," Dad began, his voice oddly formal. He and Mom sat across from me, both looking tense. Dad's hands were clasped tightly on the table, his knuckles white. Mom kept adjusting her glass of water, not making eye contact. "Is everything okay?" I asked, anxiety immediately blooming in my chest. Dad cleared his throat. "Your mom and I have been reviewing our finances." He paused, glancing at Mom. "We've realized we can't afford Northwestern after all." The statement hung in the air like something physical. I waited for more explanation for "but here's what we'll do instead. That would fix everything." "What do you mean?" I finally managed, my voice small. Mom jumped in. "Some investments didn't perform as expected, and there have been unexpected expenses this year. We just don't have the savings we thought we did." "But you said we've been planning this for years." I stammered, thinking of all the times they'd reassured me about college funds. Dad nodded gravely. "We know, sweetheart. We're disappointed too. But sometimes life throws curveballs." They proceeded to outline alternatives. The local community college for 2 years, then transferring, taking out larger student loans, postponing enrollment, and working for a year. Each suggestion felt like another brick stacking on top of my chest, making it harder to breathe. "Northwestern is offering me a half scholarship," I reminded them. "And I can work part-time. Even with the scholarship, we're looking at $20,000 a year we can't provide," Dad explained, sliding a calculator across the table with figures he'd worked out. "That's $80,000 over 4 years before medical school." I spent the rest of the evening in a daze. My entire future, the one path I'd been working toward with my parents' full encouragement, suddenly blocked. I retreated to my room and sat cross-legged on my bed, surrounded by Northwestern brochures and course catalogs, trying to process what had happened. The next few days became a blur of research. I investigated every possible scholarship, calculated potential work hours against study requirements, and explored loan options. I approached my parents with new proposals every evening. Each met with regretful headshakes and vague explanations about fiscal responsibility and living within our means. One evening, returning from the library where I'd been researching financial aid options, I overheard my parents arguing in their bedroom. "We should just tell her the truth," Mom was saying, voice strained. And say, what, exactly? Dad responded. You know, this is the right decision for the family. But we promised her Richard. For years, we promised. Things change. Priorities change. She's smart. She adjusts. Their voices dropped, and I backed away quietly. Confusion mingling with the growing disappointment. What truth weren't they telling me? What priorities had changed? Little inconsistencies began catching my attention. Despite this supposed financial crisis, Mom came home with new garden furniture for the backyard. Dad mentioned weekend fishing, trips with his work buddies. Our annual family vacation to Lake Michigan remained on the calendar. When I gently questioned these expenditures, Mom waved dismissively. Those are different budgets, honey. The vacation's already paid for and the garden set was on clearance. One afternoon, while searching for a stapler in Dad's home office, I noticed bank statements on his desk. I hadn't intended to snoop, but a particular figure caught my eye. A savings account with a substantial balance. Not we can't afford college substantial, but certainly not empty. I quickly replaced the paper, my mind racing. Jason returned from his friend's house that evening, unusually cheerful whistling as he raided the refrigerator. When I asked what had him so happy, he just shrugged and said, graduation's coming up. Just excited to be done with school. Something didn't add up. The explanations about investments failing, the arguments behind closed doors, the money still, clearly being spent on other things. Jason's mysterious good mood, all while my future crumbled. I went to bed that night with an uneasy feeling that the truth was just below the surface, waiting to be discovered. Jason's high school graduation ceremony arrived on a sweltering June afternoon 2 weeks later. The school gymnasium was packed, with proud families fanning themselves with programs, the air thick with perfume, aftershave, and anticipation. I sat between my parents in the third row, reserved for families of honor students. Jason had barely scraped a 3.0 GPA, but his position as captain of the wrestling team had earned him special recognition. When his name was called, my parents leaped to their feet, applauding wildly. Dad even whistled with his fingers, something he'd never done at my ceremony. I stood and clapped, too genuinely happy for my brother despite my own disappointment lingering in the background. Mitchell family, please meet outside by the oak tree for photos, Mom instructed as we filed out. After the ceremony, our extended family had traveled for the occasion. Grandparents from Florida, aunts and uncles from neighboring states, cousins I hadn't seen in years. We gathered under the massive oak, taking the standard graduation photos. Jason in his blue cap and gown holding his diploma. Jason with Mom and Dad. Jason with grandparents. Jason with me. Throughout it all, my father kept checking his watch and exchanging glances with my uncles, who seemed unusually excited about something. All right, everyone, Dad announced after the photos. We have a special surprise. Please follow us to the parking lot. A ripple of excited murmurs passed through the family as we processed to the far end of the school parking lot. As we rounded the corner, I saw it, a brand new Ford F-150 truck, gleaming black with chrome accents, a massive red bow attached to the hood. It sat apart from other vehicles, clearly on display. For one surreal moment, I didn't make the connection. Then Dad pulled a set of keys from his pocket, the Ford logo clearly visible on the key fob. Jason, he said, his voice booming with pride. Your mother and I couldn't be prouder of the young man you've become. As you start your journey into the construction trade, we wanted to make sure you had reliable transportation for your future. This truck is yours, son. The family erupted in cheers and applause. Jason's face transformed with shock and joy as he sprinted to the vehicle, running his hands over the polished surface in disbelief. Are you serious? This is mine. Mom nodded. Tearfully, all yours. We know how hard you've worked. I stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. The truck couldn't have cost less than $50,000. $50,000. While my college dreams disintegrated due to financial difficulties, Uncle Robert slapped Dad on the back. "You outdid yourself, Rich. What a gift!" Dad beamed, addressing the gathered family. "We believe in investing in our children's futures. Jason's chosen a practical career path in construction, following in my father's footsteps. This truck isn't just transportation, it's a work vehicle, an investment in his business." The family nodded approvingly. Jason was already in the driver's seat, exploring features with childlike excitement. No one seemed to notice me standing slightly apart or the expression on my face. No one except Grandma Mitchell, who gave me a curious look before being distracted by Jason honking the horn. The celebration continued at our house with a backyard barbecue that had clearly been planned well in advance. A custom cake featured a truck identical to Jason's gift. Monogrammed work boots from grandparents, power tools from uncles. Everything coordinated around this planned surprise that my financially strapped parents had somehow managed to afford. Our drive home had been excruciating. I sat silently in the back seat of my parents' car while they chatted excitedly about Jason's reaction. "Did you see his face?" Mom kept saying. "Was perfect." Stared out the window, tears threatening, but held rigidly in check by shock and growing anger. After the last guest departed around 9, I found my parents in the kitchen loading the dishwasher together. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Of course, honey," Mom said, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Wasn't it a wonderful day?" The truck I began, then had to start again when my voice cracked. The truck must have cost at least $50,000. Dad straightened. Defensive posture immediate. "We got a good deal through Bob at the dealership. Employee discount." "That's not the point," I said. 2 weeks ago, you told me you couldn't afford $20,000 a year for my education. Today, you bought Jason a $50,000 truck. Make it make sense." Mom sighed. "It's not the same thing, Olivia. This is a one-time purchase, not for years of ongoing expenses. One time. Dad just told everyone it's an investment in Jason's future. What about my future?" "Medical school is an uncertain path," Dad interjected. 8 years minimum of education, mountains of debt, and no guarantee of success. Jason's chosen a practical career. Construction always needs workers, and he'll be earning while you'd still be studying. So this is about return on investment. I asked incredulously. "You never said anything about medical school being uncertain before? You encouraged it? You promised to support it." Mom stepped forward, placing a hand on my arm that I immediately shrugged off. "Honey, sometimes girls get these big dreams. Then life takes a different turn. You might meet someone in college, start a family. Are you serious right now?" I stared at her in disbelief. "You think I've been working toward medical school just to drop out and get married?" "That's not what she meant," Dad said sharply. "But Jason is following in my footsteps. The Mitchell men have always worked with their hands. There's a legacy there." The implication hung in the air between us. Jason was the son, the continuation of the Mitchell name. The legacy I was temporary, an investment with diminishing returns once marriage took me away from the family. I looked at these people I thought I knew, feeling something fundamental shift inside me. So if I were a boy— "Don't make this about gender," Dad snapped. "It's about practical choices." But his eyes slid away from mine, and Mom suddenly became very interested in rearranging already clean countertops. The truth was as clear as the summer sky outside. I walked away without another word, climbing the stairs to my bedroom while celebration noises continued from the backyard, where Jason was showing off his truck to lingering friends. I closed my door softly, sank onto my bed, and finally allowed the tears to come. That night, I listened to the sounds of my family through the floor. Laughter, conversation, celebration. For the first time in my life, I felt like a stranger in my own home. Dawn found me still awake, eyes burning from tears and lack of sleep. The house was quiet now, everyone exhausted from yesterday's festivities. I moved to my desk and opened my laptop, needing to understand exactly what had happened, to find concrete evidence of what my heart already knew. I started with our family's shared email account, used primarily for utilities and household communications. Searching for Truck and Jason. In the archive revealed the truth in black and white. An email chain between Dad and the Ford dealership. Dating back 4 months. Price negotiations, feature discussions. Financing paperwork call while I was applying for additional scholarships to pursue my supposedly supported dreams. The email that broke me was from Mom to Dad, dated just 1 week before they told me they couldn't afford my tuition, confirmed with the dealership. Truck will be ready for Jay's graduation. They're keeping it hidden until the big day. Can't wait to see his face. Should we tell we can't do Northwestern soon? Or wait until after her graduation? Worried about how she'll take it. My education. My future had never been the priority. It had been sacrificed for Jason's gift. Decided months in advance. The financial review had been theater. A fabricated excuse to justify what they'd already planned. Hands shaking, I dug deeper. In Dad's poorly password-protected documents folder, his birthday. Always his birthday. I found our family financial statements. The savings account I'd glimpsed earlier wasn't the only one. There were investments, retirement accounts, home equity. While not wealthy, my parents were financially comfortable enough to afford both my tuition and Jason's truck, had they chosen to prioritize equally. A soft knock interrupted my investigation. Jason, still in pajamas, looking sheepish. In my doorway. "Hey," he said, "can I come in?" I minimized the financial documents, nodding silently. He sat on the edge of my bed. "About the truck." "Congratulations," I said flatly. "Look, I know it seems unfair. Seems." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Dad's been talking about getting me set up in construction for years. He's already lined up apprenticeships with his buddies, and the truck is part of that, for hauling stuff. And my medical career isn't worth similar investment." Jason shrugged. "It's different. Dad says doctor stuff is all student loans anyway. Plus, you'll probably get married and your husband will take care of things." The casual sexism stunned me into silence. Not just from my parents, but from Jason to... It was systemic, passed down like some toxic inheritance. Dad says after trade school, they're going to help me with a down payment on a house. He continued, oblivious to my shock. "Start building equity early," he says, "a house." After denying me tuition, they were planning to buy him a house too. "Do you think any of this is fair?" I asked quietly. Its expression turned defensive. "Life isn't fair. Liv. We're just taking different paths. Mine happens to be more practical." "Do you even want construction? Or is that Dad's dream for you?" He stood abruptly. "I didn't come in here to be, just wanted to make sure we're cool." "We're not cool, Jason. Not even close." After he left, I sat in the quiet of my room, letting reality settle around me like dust after an explosion. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about my place in it, had been a carefully constructed illusion. I wasn't the cherished daughter whose dreams mattered. I was the girl expected to adapt, to accept less, to understand why her brother deserved more. I waited until breakfast, when we were all together at the table. Mom was serving pancakes, Dad reading the newspaper, Jason texting friends about his new truck. A normal family morning, except for the knowledge burning in my chest. "I found the emails," I said calmly, placing my phone on the table with the evidence displayed. "You've been planning Jason's truck for months, long before you told me you couldn't afford my tuition." Dad lowered his newspaper slowly. Mom froze with the pancake spatula midair. "You went through our emails?" Dad asked, voice dangerously low. "Our shared family account, yes. Where you discussed which lie to tell me and when." Mom sank into a chair. "Livia, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You chose Jason over me. You lied about not having enough money? Dad slapped the table, making dishes jump. That's enough. We made a parental decision about allocating family resources. We don't owe you an explanation. Actually, you do. I countered, surprising myself with my steadiness. You raised me. To believe that education was everything, you promised to support my dreams. You helped me apply to Northwestern knowing you had no intention of helping me attend. We support your education, Mom interjected. Just not at an overpriced private university when perfectly good state schools exist. This isn't about public versus private, I said. It's about investing $50,000 in Jason's future while telling me you can't spare $20,000 for mine. The truck is different. Dad insisted. It's practical. Jason needed it for work. For work he hasn't started yet, I pointed out. And according to these bank statements, you have the money for both. You chose not to spend it on me. The kitchen fell silent. Jason stared at his plate. Mom looked near tears. Dad's face had turned an alarming shade of red. Since when do children dictate how parents spend money? He finally said. Since you made promises you had no intention of keeping. Since you taught me that hard work and excellence would be rewarded, then punished me for believing you. Dad pushed back from the table. Not having this conversation. When you calm down and start thinking rationally instead of emotionally, we can discuss alternatives for your education. Just tell her, Richard, Mom said quietly. Tell her the truth. Dad shot her a warning look, but she continued. She deserves to know why we made this decision. He sighed heavily, the fight suddenly leaving him. Fine. The truth is, investing in a son makes more financial sense for a family. Jason will carry on the Mitchell name. His success directly benefits our family legacy. Your success. He paused, searching for words. Benefits only me. I finished for him. He didn't deny it. Traditional values have sustained families for generations, Olivia. Sons stay connected to family businesses, family names. Daughters eventually join other families. It's not personal. It's practical. I looked at my mother, hoping for some defense, some recognition of how deeply wrong this was. Instead, she nodded slowly. I know it sounds old-fashioned, she offered weakly, but practical decisions keep families stable across generations. The betrayal was complete. It's not just financial support withdrawn, but the revelation that my place in their hearts had always been conditional, temporary, less than my brother's. I felt physically ill, my chest constricting as though the air had been sucked from the room. Jason finally spoke. Come on, Liv. It's not that big a deal. Take out some loans like normal people. The casual dismissal of my pain from the brother I'd helped through every school project. Every difficult subject broke something final inside me. I stood up slowly, legs unsteady. You didn't just betray my education, I said, looking at each family member in turn. You betrayed who I thought we were as a family. You made me believe I mattered as much as Jason. That was the real lie. I walked out of the kitchen, climbed the stairs to my room, and closed the door softly behind me. Then I collapsed to the floor, hand pressed against my mouth to stifle the sobs that tore through me, my entire body shaking with the force of this fundamental betrayal. Through the floor, I could hear the murmur of conversation continuing without me, life proceeding as though my world hadn't just imploded. I curled into myself, surrounded by Northwestern acceptance letters and valedictorian medals. Academic achievements that had apparently never been enough to secure my equal place in the Mitchell family. 3 a.m., the quietest hour of night. When even the house itself seemed to be sleeping, I sat cross-legged on my bed, laptop glowing in the darkness. Illuminating tear-streaked cheeks, I no longer bothered to wipe. The emotional collapse had given way to something else, cold, clear determination. If my family wouldn't invest in my future, I would find another way. I refused to abandon my dreams because of their betrayal. I spent hours researching every possible scholarship opportunity, focusing on those still accepting late applications. The Edmonds Foundation Scholarship for Exceptional Students caught my attention, a full ride for students, demonstrating academic excellence and resilience in the face of significant obstacles. It required an essay, recommendation letters, and an interview all within the next 2 weeks. With trembling fingers, I typed an email to Mrs. Westfield, my high school guidance counselor. Despite the hour, I needed to reach out immediately, says Westfield. I'm facing an unexpected financial crisis with my Northwestern plans. My parents have withdrawn all support. Are you available to discuss emergency scholarship options tomorrow? I'm determined to find a way forward. Olivia Mitchell. At first light, I slipped out of the house before anyone awoke and walked to the local coffee shop with free Wi-Fi. Mrs. Westfield had responded already, offering to meet me at her office. At 9 o'clock, bring all your financial information, she wrote. We'll figure this out. The high school felt eerily empty during summer break. Mrs. Westfield waited in her office, concern evident in her expression when she saw my exhausted state. Olivia, what happened? She asked, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. I explained everything. The false claims of financial hardship, Jason's truck, the family confrontation, the revelation of their true values. As I spoke, Mrs. Westfield's expression shifted from concern to outrage. I don't even have words, she said when I finished. I've worked with your parents for years. I never imagined they would do this. Neither did I admitted. But here we are. We need to find a way to attend Northwestern without them. She nodded decisively. The Edmonds Scholarship would cover everything, but it's highly competitive. Only 5 awarded nationally each year. I'll be one of them, I said with quiet certainty. I have to be. What followed was the most intense 2 weeks of my life. By day, I maintained a hollow facade at home, speaking minimally to my family, eating meals in silence or in my room. They attempted occasional overtures, Mom suggesting community college applications. Dad mentioning loans again, but I responded with single words or nothing at all. By night and during every moment alone, I worked. The scholarship essay required detailed explanation of my circumstances and how I planned to overcome them. Mrs. Westfield helped me craft language that was honest without being melodramatic, emphasizing my resilience rather than victimhood. The committee doesn't want to award pity scholarships, she explained. They want to invest in students who will succeed despite obstacles. We secured recommendation letters from my principal, hospital volunteer coordinator, and debate team coach. Each spoke to different aspects of my character: academic excellence, compassion, persuasive articulation. Mrs. Westfield herself wrote the 4th letter, addressing my newfound circumstances with professional delicacy and personal conviction. The financial documentation proved tricky. I had limited access to my parents' information, but Mrs. Westfield helped me complete the forms with what I knew. They'll verify independently, she assured me. Just be truthful about your situation. Throughout this process, I lived in a strange limbo at home. My parents seemed uncertain how to approach me after the confrontation. Mom left plates of food outside my door when I skipped meals. Dad made awkward attempts at small talk about whether Jason avoided me entirely, spending most time with his friends, or proudly driving his new truck around town. The application complete, I submitted everything electronically from Mrs. Westfield's office. 3 days later, I received an email requesting a video interview with the scholarship committee, scheduled for the following Monday at 10 a.m. Mrs. Westfield offered her office for the interview. You need privacy and good internet, she said, and maybe a friendly face nearby. The interview panel consisted of 5 people: the foundation director, 2 university administrators, a corporate sponsor, and a previous scholarship recipient. For 90 minutes, they questioned me about everything from academic goals to ethical perspectives to how I handled failure. When they asked about my family situation, I took a deep breath and told the truth without embellishment or self-pity. I always believed my academic achievements would be supported, as promised, throughout my childhood. When that support was withdrawn in favor of my brother's more practical career path, I realized I needed to create my own opportunities. I'm not asking for this scholarship because I deserve it more than others, but because I will maximize its impact through dedication to medicine and future service. Afterward, Mrs. Westfield hugged me. That was perfect, Olivia. Dignified and powerful. Now we wait. The waiting proved excruciating. At home, tensions remained high. Dad had taken to making pointed comments about ungrateful children and emotional overreactions. Up. Mom vacillated between tearful apologies and defensive justifications. Up. One evening, she cornered me in the hallway. We still love you, Olivia. We're still your parents. Can't we move past this? I looked at her, this woman I trusted implicitly for 18 years. Love shouldn't have conditions or gender-based limitations. Mom, when you decided Jason deserved investment and I didn't, you redefined our relationship. I'm still processing what that means. 7 days after the interview, the email arrived. I was at the public library, my new refuge for avoiding home. With shaking hands, I opened it. Dear Miss Mitchell, the Edmonds Foundation Scholarship Committee is pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a 2024 recipient. This award covers full tuition, room, board, books, and a stipend for 4 years at Northwestern University. I pressed my hand against my mouth, tears blurring the rest of the message. I had done it. I had found my own way forward. That night, while my family slept, I began methodically planning my departure. Northwestern's orientation began August 15th, but I decided to leave earlier, mid-July. I needed distance, time to process, space to rebuild my sense of self away from the family that had betrayed me. I calculated expenses carefully. My personal savings from years of birthday money and part-time jobs would cover transportation and initial expenses. The scholarship wouldn't activate until orientation, but I could stay with Rebecca, my online friend, who lived near campus for the interim weeks. Over several days, I quietly packed essentials. Winter clothes could wait. I only needed summer items and irreplaceable personal belongings. Everything fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. I left behind the lavish graduation gifts from relatives. The laptop, the pearl earrings, the monogrammed luggage. Those felt tainted now. The night before my planned departure, I wrote a brief note. I have received a full scholarship to Northwestern. I am pursuing my medical education as planned. Do not contact me. I will reach out when, if I'm ready. Olivia. No emotional accusations, no heated explanations, just facts. I would leave it on my perfectly made bed for them to find after I was gone. I arranged for a rideshare to the bus station at 5 a.m. before anyone in the house would stir. That final night, I lay awake in my childhood bedroom surrounded by the remnants of a life built on false assumptions. Swimming trophies from elementary school, academic awards throughout high school. Family photos where we all smiled, believing or pretending we were equal members of a loving unit. In the pre-dawn darkness, I moved silently through the sleeping house, placing my notes centered on my bed. I didn't allow myself a final glance at my parents' closed door or at Jason's room with its sports posters and new car keys on the dresser. Those people were now characters in my past, not architects of my future. The front door closed softly behind me. The weight of betrayal remained, but alongside it grew something new, the fierce pride of self-reliance. Whatever came next would be my creation alone. In the growing light of dawn, I walked away from the Mitchell family home, 2 suitcases containing my remaining connections to childhood, and a determination that would never again be dependent on anyone else's validation. The Greyhound bus pulled into Chicago Station at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a brutally hot July day. Sweating in jeans and a t-shirt, I dragged my suitcases through the crowded terminal, searching for the exit. After 18 hours of travel local, bus to Cleveland, overnight Greyhound to Chicago, exhaustion competed with anxiety and a strange buoyant sense of freedom. Rebecca waited outside, recognizable from our video chats over the past year. We'd met in an online pre-med forum, bonding over shared interests and goals. When I explained my situation in a tearful late-night call, she immediately offered her apartment couch until dormitories opened, Olivia called, waving enthusiastically. Over here, Cog felt like the first genuine human connection I'd had in weeks. She helped with my bags, chattering about neighborhood restaurants and campus landmarks we'd visit. Her easy warmth began thawing, something frozen inside me. Rebecca's apartment, shared with 2 other students, was tiny but welcoming. The couch that would be my bed for 3 weeks looked more inviting than my bedroom at home had felt in those final days. It's not much, she apologized. But mi casa es su casa. It's perfect, I assured her, meaning it. This shabby couch represented independence, chosen connections rather than obligatory ones. The first night? Lying awake under borrowed blankets while Rebecca's roommates quietly moved around the apartment, homesickness hit with unexpected force. Not for my parents or even my childhood home, but for the certainty I'd once felt about my place in the world. I'd lost not just family support, but an entire framework for understanding relationships and trust. Morning brought renewed determination. Rebecca had classes but left campus maps in her spare key. Explore, she encouraged. Start making it yours. I spent that day wandering Northwestern's campus, an outsider looking in. Students attending summer sessions moved purposefully between buildings. I found the pre-med advising office closed until orientation and the dormitory where I'd been assigned a room. Standing outside these places, felt simultaneously that I belonged and that I was a fraud who'd had to scheme her way into belonging. By week 2, I'd established routines. Mornings exploring campus, afternoons at a local coffee shop with free Wi-Fi, researching student jobs and applying for campus positions. Evenings cooking dinner with Rebecca and her roommates, who never questioned why a stranger occupied their living room or treated me with anything less than warmth. My phone remained off. I checked it once after arrival, finding 37 missed calls and dozens of texts from my parents and Jason. The messages progressed from confused to angry to pleading. I read none in detail, merely confirming they knew I was gone. Then I powered off the device, unable to handle their emotions while still processing my own. I found work as a research assistant in the university's biology department, starting immediately, despite classes being weeks away. The professor, Dr. Eleanor Chen, needed help organizing data from summer experiments. The position paid modestly, but offered invaluable experience and connection to my field. "You're incredibly organized," Dr. Chen commented after my first week. "Most freshmen require more supervision." "I've learned to be self-sufficient," I replied, leaving the complicated reasons unspoken. When dormitories opened for early arrivals, I moved into my assigned room with profound relief. The space was minimal: twin bed, desk, dresser, half a closet, but entirely mine. My roommate wouldn't arrive for another week, giving me time to settle into the space physically and emotionally. That first night alone in my dorm room, I cried for hours. Not from sadness exactly, but from release. The tension of the summer, the shock of discovery. The stress of securing my future independently. The exhaustion of maintaining composure through it all, everything poured out in those private tears. By morning, I felt hollowed out, but somehow, lighter classes began, and I threw myself into academics with renewed purpose. Each completed assignment, each professor's approving nod. Each successful quiz became tangible proof that I belonged here despite my family's lack of faith. I scheduled courses strategically, maximizing pre-med requirements while balancing workload. My research position with Dr. Chen expanded to 10 hours weekly. October brought the first real challenge to my new independence. Thanksgiving break loomed, with dormitories closing and most students returning home. The thought of seeing my family, sent panic through me. I wasn't ready. The wounds remained too raw. Dr. Chen provided unexpected sanctuary. I need someone to monitor experiments during the break, she mentioned casually. Paid, of course, with access to graduate housing since dorms close. Any interest? The relief must have shown on my face. Absolutely, yes. Thanksgiving Day found me in Dr. Chen's lab, running cell cultures while most of America gathered around family tables. She appeared mid-afternoon with containers of food. My family's dinner, she explained. Much too much as always. We ate together in the lab's break room, discussing research rather than personal matters. Only when finishing did she say, family complications can be the hardest scientific problem to solve. Whatever yours are, remember that families form in many ways. Some we're born into, others we create deliberately. The latter often fit better. Her words resonated deeply. I was building my chosen family already, Rebecca and her roommates, Dr. Chen's study group members who'd become friends, my dorm resident advisor who checked in regularly. Winter break presented similar challenges, solved when a classmate invited me to join her family in Michigan. Mom always makes too much food, and our guest room sits empty, she insisted. I accepted gratefully, experiencing a normal, loving family dynamic that made my own situation both more painful by comparison and somehow less consuming. Other families existed where children were valued equally, supported without gender-based conditions. One Tuesday in February, my phone kept charged but rarely checked, displayed a campus area code I didn't recognize. Thinking it might be administrative, I answered. Olivia, it's Jason. I nearly hung up. How did you get this number? Called the university. Said it was a family emergency. His voice sounded different, subdued, missing its usual confidence. What do you want? I asked coldly. To apologize and to tell you some things have changed at home. I said nothing, waiting. Mom and Dad are separating, he continued into my silence. Dad's not doing great. The truck got repossessed because he lost his job, and I dropped out of trade school. It turns out construction wasn't my thing after all. A complex emotion rose in me. Not quite satisfaction at their struggles, but vindication that their practical plans had collapsed so quickly. Why are you telling me this? Because you were right, he said simply. About everything. The favoritism, the sexism, all of it. I didn't see it because I benefited from it. But when things got tough, Dad started treating me the way he treated you, like an investment gone bad. I realized that's all either of us ever were to him. The conversation lasted nearly an hour. Jason detailed the family's unraveling after my departure, Mom's guilt manifesting as depression, Dad's rigid values crumbling under financial strain, their marriage fracturing under the weight of confronting their choices. Mom asks about you constantly. Jason said wants to know if you're okay. I'm more than okay, I told him truthfully. I'm thriving. When we disconnected, I felt no desire to reconcile with my parents. But something had shifted. Their collapse didn't heal my wounds, but it removed the power those wounds held over me. Their approval or disapproval no longer mattered. I was succeeding without them. Spring semester brought new triumphs. I maintained a perfect GPA while increasing my research. Ours Dr. Chen invited me to co-author a paper, virtually unheard of for a freshman. My pre-med advisor remarked that I was positioning myself exceptionally well for medical school applications. As my first year neared its end, I received an email that stopped my breath. Acceptance to Northwestern's prestigious Accelerated Medical program, another competitive scholarship that would secure my direct path to the university's medical school. After undergraduate completion, only 5 students annually received this honor. In my tiny dorm room, staring at the acceptance letter, I thought about the frightened girl who had boarded a bus with 2 suitcases less than a year ago. That version of me could never have imagined this moment of absolute triumph. I had lost a family but found my strength. I had been betrayed but learned to trust myself. The night before graduation, I received a text from Jason. "Mom's coming tomorrow. Wanted you to know your choice if you want to see her. Dad's not coming." I stood at the window of my dorm room, watching sunset paint the campus buildings golden. After everything, after rebuilding my life piece by careful piece, was I ready to face the person whose betrayal had catalyzed this journey? The answer came with surprising clarity. Yes, not for reconciliation or forgiveness, but to close the circle. To show her exactly who I had become without her support. To stand in my achievement without hiding or apologizing. I texted back one word. Okay. Graduation day dawned brilliantly clear. Lake Michigan shimmering like polished glass beyond campus boundaries. I dressed methodically in my room, black dress beneath the academic gown. Honor cords draped over my shoulders, cap positioned precisely. Each item represented triumph over circumstances that should have defeated me. My roommate Catherine snapped photos as I prepared. First in our class, she kept saying proudly, "They should make you give this speech instead of that boring dean." We joined the procession of graduates assembling outside the auditorium. Faculty in colorful academic regalia lined the walkway, Dr. Chen among them. She stepped forward as I passed, briefly squeezing my hand. "Extraordinary work, Olivia. This is just the beginning." I hadn't told anyone about my mother's possible appearance. It felt too complicated to explain, too personal to share. I wasn't even certain she would come despite Jason's text. Part of me hoped she wouldn't. As our procession reached the administration building where we would collect name cards before entering the ceremony, I saw her. My mother stood near the information desk, looking smaller than I remembered, her hair showing more gray. She appeared to be arguing with the assistant dean of students, gesturing emphatically. "I need to know where my daughter is." I heard her saying as I approached, "Olivia Mitchell. I'm her mother. I haven't seen her in 4 years." As I've explained to Mrs. Mitchell, we cannot provide student information without permission. Privacy. Policies are very clear. My fellow graduates continued past this scene, oblivious to the drama unfolding. I could have joined them, avoided this confrontation entirely. Instead, I stepped away from the line. "Mom," she turned, her face transforming through shock to disbelief to something like wonder. "Olivia, is that really you? For years separated. Us. For years of complete silence after 18 years of daily interaction." She looked at me like I was a stranger, which in many ways I was. "Why are you here?" I asked quietly. "To see you graduate?" Her voice trembled. "Jason told me. I had to. Come, even if you didn't want to see me." The assistant dean, sensing personal drama, discreetly stepped away. Mom and I stood facing each other in the administrative lobby, graduates flowing around us like water around stones. "You look so grown up," she said, "so confident." "I am confident," I replied. "I did this without you or Dad, without anyone's help." She flinched slightly. "I know. That's why I had to come to tell you I'm sorry, more sorry than you can imagine." Part of me had imagined this moment, rehearsed cutting words designed to inflict the pain I'd experienced. Standing before her vulnerability, those prepared speeches evaporated. "A lot has changed," I said simply. "Everything's changed," she agreed. "Your father and I separated 2 years ago. The divorce was finalized last month." I nodded, having heard pieces from Jason's occasional texts. "After you left," she continued, then stopped to steady her voice. "After you left, nothing was the same. All our certainties collapsed. Jason dropped out of trade school. Your father lost his job when the plant downsized. The financial security we thought was so important vanished anyway. I'm sorry things have been difficult," I said, surprised to partially mean it. "Don't be. We deserved it." She looked down at her hands. "The way we treated you was unforgivable. Choosing to invest in Jason over you because of outdated sexist Values. I participated in that decision. I can't undo it. No, you can't. I agreed. Your father still can't admit he was wrong. His pride. She shook her head. It cost him everything. Our marriage, his relationship with both his children, his self-respect, and Jason. I asked, curious despite myself. A small smile touched her lips. He's finding his way. Community. College now, studying graphic design. He's actually good at it. Says he should have ignored Dad's pressure from the beginning. Talks about you all the time. How you inspired him to pursue what he actually wants. The irony wasn't lost on me. My brother had ended up at community college after all the preferential treatment. While I had succeeded at the university, they claimed I couldn't attend. I should rejoin the procession, I said, gesturing toward the graduates, now nearly all. Inside, of course. She stepped back awkwardly. I won't intrude on your day. I just wanted to see you to tell you how proud I am of what you've accomplished against all odds, against our terrible mistakes. Something softened slightly in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but recognition of her humanity, her capacity for growth, even if it came too late for our relationship. Are you staying for the ceremony? I asked. Hope illuminated her face. Yes, I have a ticket. Jason helped me get it. Find me afterward, I said, neither promise nor rejection. If you want, she nodded, tears spilling now. I'd like that very much. I rejoined the procession just as it entered the auditorium. The grand space buzzed with excitement. Parents and friends filling every seat. Faculty assembled on stage. I took my place with the other honors graduates in the front row, focused on the culmination of my academic journey rather than the emotional complexities waiting outside. When they called my name as valedictorian, the applause seemed to expand the room itself. Walking across that stage, accepting my diploma with highest honors. I remembered the terrified girl who had left home with 2 suitcases and a broken heart. She could never have imagined this triumph, this absolute validation of her worth. After the ceremony, Catherine hugged me fiercely. We're having a celebration at Giovanni's. You have to come. I'll meet you there, I promised. Something I need to do first. My mother waited near the entrance, uncertainty written across her face. When she saw me approaching, relief replaced tension. You were incredible, she said. Top of your class. Thank you. An awkward silence stretched between us. Years of unspoken words creating an almost physical barrier. Jason wanted to come, she offered. He had a final exam he couldn't reschedule. I nodded, then made a decision. I'm meeting friends for a graduation dinner. Would you like to join us? Her surprise was evident. Are you sure? I wouldn't want to intrude. You wouldn't be intruding if I'm inviting you, I said. It's not forgiveness or reconciliation. It's just dinner. Just dinner would be wonderful, she replied softly. Giovanni's bustled with celebration when we arrived. My friends had claimed a long table near the back, faces lighting with curiosity when I approached with an older woman they'd never seen. Everyone, this is Linda Mitchell, my mother, I said. The words strange on my tongue after years of silence. Mom, these are my friends. Catherine recovered first, pulling out a chair. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Mitchell. Olivia never mentions. Family. Come sit by me and spill all her childhood secrets. The dinner progressed with surprising ease. My mother shared sanitized versions of my childhood achievements. My friends detailed our college adventures. And I observed this integration of my past and present with cautious wonder. When Mom excused herself to the restroom, Catherine leaned over. You never talk about your family. Is everything okay? I considered the question carefully. It's complicated. We've been estranged since before freshman year. This is the first time I've seen her in 4 years. Catherine's eyes widened. Seriously. But she seems so proud of you. She is now, I said. She wasn't always. People can change, I guess. When Mom returned, the conversation shifted to my medical school plans. She listened intently as I described the accelerated program I'd been accepted to. "You always wanted to be a doctor," she said softly, "since you were 6 and got that toy stethoscope for Christmas." The shared memory created an unexpected bridge across years of silence. Not rebuilding what was lost, but acknowledging that our histories remained intertwined despite the rupture. As dinner concluded, we walked together toward the parking lot. Night had fallen, campus lights illuminating paths between buildings where I'd spent 4 transformative years. "Thank you for including me today," Mom said. "I know you didn't have to." "No, I didn't." I agreed, "but I'm not angry anymore." "That's different from forgiveness, but it's something." She nodded, accepting these terms without pushing for more. "You've built an amazing life here. Great friends, academic success, clear direction. You did that without us, without me." "I did," I acknowledged. "It wasn't easy, but it taught me something invaluable. No one else defines my worth or capability. Not parents, not society's expectations, not gender norms. It's only I determine my limits." "A lesson I learned too late," she replied, "but one I'll never forget." We reached her car, the moment of separation at hand. "Will you stay in touch?" she asked tentatively. "Even occasionally?" I considered this carefully. "I can't promise regular contact. My life is moving forward. Medical school, residency, eventually. But yes, occasional updates seem reasonable." Relief softened her features. "That's more than I deserve. Thank you." We didn't hug goodbye. That would have felt forced, premature. Instead, I stepped back as she entered her car, both of us acknowledging the careful distance that respect required. Walking back toward campus where my friends waited, I felt an unfamiliar lightness. Not the absence of past pain, but its transformation into something constructive. Wisdom, resilience, self-knowledge. My family had tried to limit me based on antiquated notions of gender and worth. In breaking free, I hadn't just achieved academic success. I discovered my capacity to define myself on my own terms, to build connections based on genuine value rather than obligation. The greatest lesson wasn't about forgiveness or reconciliation, though both remained possibilities for the future. It was about the power of self-definition, of refusing external limitations, writing your own story even when others try to reduce you to a supporting character in theirs. As I rejoined my chosen family friends who celebrated my success without qualification, mentors who recognized my potential without gender-based asterisks, I understood that betrayal had given me an unexpected gift, the freedom to discover my true worth, unconstrained by others' limited vision. 4 years ago, a devastated girl had boarded a bus with nothing but determination and 2 suitcases. Today, a confident woman in graduation regalia looked toward a future limited only by her own choices, not by anyone else's expectations. The journey between those 2 versions of myself had been painful but necessary. Breaking old bonds to forge stronger ones, including the most important bond of all, the one with myself. So, if you're watching this and facing your own version of family disappointment or inequality, remember that other people's limitations aren't yours to carry. Your worth isn't determined by their investment. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from those who can't see your full potential, creating space for those who will. Have you ever had to redefine yourself after betrayal? Drop a comment below sharing your story. Like and subscribe if this resonated with you, and share with someone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. Thank you for witnessing my journey from heartbreak to triumph. And remember, the only permission you need to pursue your dreams is your own.